Pursuant to the order of the House today, the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Stearns, and a member opposed will each control 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Florida.
I rise to offer an amendment on behalf of myself, Mr. Scalise of Louisiana, Ms. Adams of Florida, and Mr. Brown of Georgia. My colleagues, this simple amendment will prohibit the Department of Energy from using any funds included in this bill to subordinate any loan obligation to other financing in violation of the Energy Policy Act of 2005. That was the original intent of Congress. As chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee's Subcommittee on Oversight and Investigation, I've led the investigation into the administration's rushed decision to loan Solyndra, a California-based solar panel manufacturing company, $535 million in taxpayers' money that was ultimately lost. During this investigation, it was uncovered that, shockingly, the Department of Energy knew as early as August 2009 that Solyndra would go bankrupt in September of 2011, but simply proceeded to risk more taxpayers' funds throughout that time. The investigation also discovered that following meetings with outside investors, DOE made the unprecedented decision on December 10, 2010, to subordinate $75 million of taxpayer money so more private capital could be injected into Solyndra. Subordination gave private investors money priority over taxpayers' money, meaning that in the event of bankruptcy, private investors would be paid back before the taxpayers. But Secretary Chu wasn't allowed to subordinate the taxpayers' money. As I mentioned earlier, the Energy Policy Act of 2005 states that DOE loan guarantees are not to be subordinated to other financing, and it was clear what the intent of Congress was. In fact, DOE went out of its way to violate the will of Congress and sought the opinion of outside counsel on the legality of the subordination. And based upon this opinion, they made a decision to subordinate, and it all hinged on the word is, the meaning of the word is. In a 17-page draft memo obtained by the Energy and Commerce Committee's DOE private attorneys, they seem to acknowledge that the law prohibits the subordination of department-guaranteed funds. However, this draft memo was never finalized. Instead, an email was sent by a lawyer at the law firm stating that DOE's rationale for subordination was, quote, "It makes the best possible case on a reasonable interpretation supported by restructuring policy arguments," end quote. Now, Secretary Chu also ignored the important parts of the law. The law required the Energy Secretary to notify the Attorney General in the event of a default on a loan guarantee. In December 13, 2010, letter to Solyndra, Jonathan Silver, then Executive Director of the DOE's loan program, notified Solyndra it was in default. However, Secretary Chu did not alert the Attorney General, as required by law. In addition, Treasury and OMB officials' emails clearly indicate they believe DOE's legal justification for placing taxpayers at the back of the line was inconsistent with their interpretation of the law and advised DOE to seek a legal opinion from the Justice Department. On August 17, 2011, email Department of Treasury Secretary, Assistant Secretary of Financial Markets, Mary Miller, sent an email to Jeffrey Zients, Deputy Director of OMB, in which she stated that our legal counsel believes that the statute and the DOE regulations both require that the guaranteed loan should not be subordinated to any loan or any other debt obligation. It is clear, Mr. Chairman, every step of the way the Department of Energy ignored the law and did whatever they wished to push through the subordination. Our investigation continues. I and my colleagues in the Energy and Commerce are working on a permanent legislation solution to ensure that taxpayers are never, ever again struck and stuck paying hundreds of millions of dollars because the Obama administration's risky bets and decision to put taxpayers at the back of the line. I encourage all my colleagues to support this amendment, and I'll yield. I'd like to also get my colleagues, so I'll yield shortly. How much time, Mr. Chairman, do I have left?
30 seconds remain.
If you'll take...
Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to support the amendment. I commend the gentleman for his investigations and his conclusion. And I yield back to him.
And I yield the balance to my colleague from Florida, Ms. Adams.
Mr. Speaker, I rise this evening in support of the Adams, Stearns, Scalise, and Brown amendment to ensure the protection of the taxpayer dollars at the Department of Energy. American taxpayers were left out in the cold when the President Obama's administration went through with this loan. The now defunct bankrupt lender was restructured.